The treasure of the legendary princess Zubeida shocked archaeologists. Zubeida went down in history as one of the wealthiest and most influential women of all eras and states. In this video, you will also see a treasure that has been gathering dust in the museum for years until you take a closer look at it. A rare gold bowl over 3,000 years old. Hi friend, you're on the KirTop channel. A treasure that became a sensation. Accidental find several centuries later became a real sensation. Alfred's jewel long and completely undeservedly languished in the treasuries, but after hundreds of years, justice has triumphed. A small piece of jewelry was found in the 17th century in North Peterton. It was not found in card boxes, but in an ordinary field. Colonel Nathaniel Palmer owned the Alfred jewel for a quarter of a century and bequeathed it to the University of Oxford. It is still kept in the Ashmolean Art Museum and is considered the most valuable exhibit. The relic could have been gathering dust in the collection for a long time if scientists had not taken a closer look at it one day. The product is over 1,000 years old. It consists of an animal drop-shade insert which depicts a person, presumably Jesus Christ. The pale figure of the Savior is directed at the viewer. The face is partially covered by a bush of golden hair. In hands, we see some kind of plants on lawn stems. A gold-framed animal plate rests on a precious metal substrate and is covered with transparent quartz on top. Interestingly, the Alfred jewel has inspired many contemporary authors as well. For example, the famous writer Tolkien worked for a long time at Oxford University as a professor of the Anglo-Saxon language. Some of the amulets of the heroes of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit he copied from this particular decoration. The stone that marks the boundaries of the ancient city. In Rome, during the restoration of the mausoleum of Augustus, a rare stone was discovered, marking the Pomerium, the sacred border of Rome, dating back to the reign of the Emperor Claudius. At the same time, the stone was still fixed in the ground at the site of the family tomb, where the remains of Claudius himself were buried. Archaeologists have already declared the extreme importance of this discovery, because in total, only 10 such stones were discovered in Rome, and 100 years have passed since the discovery of the last one. According to legend, the Pomerius was the city's border, laid by Romulus on April 21, 753 BC on the birthday of Rome, and was a furrow plowed in accordance with complex religious Etruscan rites. It was a sacred site dedicated to the city's patron gods and essential in protecting the city from supernatural threats. Later, a wall was erected along the border of the Pomeria. The Pomerius itself was not a wall, but it clearly separated the line of the city inside which special rules were enforced from the outer territory. So in particular, it was forbidden to live and engage in agriculture here. This border could not be crossed by any foreign ruler. It was also forbidden to enter for armed citizens. The only exceptions were the generals who returned from the war with the victory. They were allowed to march in triumph in full dress and make sacrifices to the gods. As for the stone found, there was an inscription on it with the appropriate justification. The empire expanded thanks to the conquest of Britain by Claudius. Therefore, he had the right to expand the sacred boundaries of the city, which in fact he did. The stone measures 193 centimeters by 74.5 centimeters by 54 centimeters. Only a part of the inscription has survived on it, but since there are other similar stones on which the exact same text was engraved, the missing part is easily identifiable. The full inscription on the stones of Claudius read: Tiberius Claudius, son of Drusus, Caesar Augustus Germanicus, the great pontiff, endowed with the power of a tribune 9 times, proclaimed emperor 16 times, consul for the 4th time, censor, father of his country. In connection with the expansion of the Roman, the number of people increased and the number of Pomeriuses was differentiated. But in this case, only part of the last lines have survived. Golden cup, 3,000 years old. An extremely rare gold bowl, at least 3,000 years old, and several hundred bronze objects were discovered during the construction of a railway near Ebreivsdorf in Austria. Excavations here began in September 2019, and over the past 2 years, a number of interesting artifacts related to the ancient settlement have been unearthed. The bowl, decorated with solar patterns, was made of very thin sheet metal, 90% gold and 10% silver and copper, and measures 20 centimeters in diameter and 5 centimeters high. The decor is made using the riposta technique, embossing on the reverse side of the sheet to form a relief pattern on the front side. On the side of the bowl are successive rows of circles, rhombuses, and dots. The bottom of the bowl is decorated with rays of the sun. In addition to the bowl itself, 4 other precious objects were found in it: 2 bracelets made of spiral wire and 2 bundles of organic material wrapped in gold wire. The material was leather or fabric stitched with gold thread. According to researchers, it could be a decorative scarf worn during religious ceremonies in honor of the sun. This bowl is the first of its kind found in Austria and the second to the east of the Alps. Previously, vessels of this type, the number of which does not exceed 30, were found mainly in Germany and Scandinavia, and also single specimens were found in Spain, France, and Switzerland. Since the beginning of excavations, archaeologists have found about 500 bronze artifacts here, including pins, daggers, knives, as well as various ceramic earthenware vessels, shells, and animal bones. The settlement discovered in the area of today's Ebreisdorf was occupied by a society belonging to the Urnfeld culture dating back to the Middle and Late Bronze Age. The population was sedentary and was engaged in agriculture and animal husbandry, especially sheep breeding. The settlement dates back to about 1300–1000 BC. Ghar-Dalam. A short time will pass for the hegemony of overground temples, and again the Maltese will begin to build them underground. For example, one of the later temples of Halsaflieni, which became the successor of Ghar-Dalam. This is emphasized by the fact that many utensils from the ancient temple were brought here and used in rituals. But Halsaflieni is an even more amazing place. The secrets are invisible here. The most famous of these is the Oracle Hall. Its secret has not yet been solved. It is worth saying at least a word in it, as it will echo in all 34 rooms. But this will only happen if you are a man. Women's voices do not sound here. Another secret is that it was simply impossible to die of the thirst here, even in those periods when the heat came to Malta. There are niches in the cave that store fresh water. And again, a mystery. Only a certain amount of water is collected in the niches. That is, if we were to say that it somehow seeps out from the outside, then this process would hardly be regulated, and the cave would simply flood over time. In addition, ancient and new underground temples were interconnected by a channel of passages. 3,000-year-old window to another world. An international team of archaeologists has presented a study that explains the origin and purpose of the mysterious wooden structure built on the territory of modern Italy over 3,000 years ago. Scientists believe it could have been a Bronze Age infinite pool that helped people see another world. The mysterious structure was discovered by Italian archaeologists back in 2004 near the town of Noceto, west of Parma, in the northern part of Italy. It is located in the valley of the Po River. Archaeologists named the site Vasca Votiva, which means sacred pool. Its length was 12 meters, width 7 meters, and depth 3 meters. It was dug at the top of a small hill. This pool has been meticulously lined with wooden poles, planks, and beams of oak, elm, and walnut. The work was done so skillfully that even now many of the elements are in good condition. This site was found to be unlike any other public or private pool of the Roman and pre-Roman period. According to Stuart Manning, an archaeologist at Cornell University in New York, the structure only looked like a basin. In fact, it was created for ritual purposes. The building was panoramic. It was an infinite pool that reflected the sky in such a way that looking at it, the audience had the impression that they were looking into another kingdom. If you walked up to the structure and looked at the surface of the water, you would witness an amazing effect. Looking down, you would look at the reflected sky and perceive it as if, in a sense, you were in another world. Magic stone of the goddess of love. Turquoise is a blue-green mineral of copper and aluminium phosphate that is associated in many ways with ancient Egypt. It is a relatively rare stone, mined today mainly in the American Southwest, Iran, and China. The sources of turquoise available to the ancient Egyptians were located in the southwest of Sinai, which are now substantially depleted. In Egypt, small items such as amulets and beads were made from turquoise. It also served for the inlay of more complex and massive things, gold jewelry. It was also inlaid in stone, like on a charming turtle figurine. Crafted from an elaborate amethyst stone, this turtle is encrusted on its back with tiny semi-precious stones designed to mimic the pattern of spots on the animal's shell. Turquoise is among the stones found in the rich grave of a young girl named Muit. This vibrantly colorful necklace set is notable for its technically brilliant workmanship, as the drilled stone beads are quite tiny. This combination was especially popular for cloisonné inlay jewelry. The pectoral of Princess Sad Hather Yuna is a masterpiece of the genre. It is encrusted with 372 carefully carved pieces of semi-precious stones. However, women of less status were also buried with exquisite turquoise jewelry. Turquoise often varies in color from one geological specimen to another, and often a piece of jewelry includes such multicolored stones. For example, this cylindrical amulet uses turquoise, which ranges from blue to green to nearly yellow. Although turquoise is closely related to Egyptian culture, in scientific and popular beliefs, it was actually a rare commodity in ancient Egypt. Its light blue-green color, associated with fertility and vegetation, was highly prized. Why was turquoise so prized? The answer lies in the symbolic reading of its color. The magic of the goddess of love and beauty, Hathor, her light and warmth fill the sacred stone. But it will bring happiness only to those who are not afraid to go further than the eyes can see, and draw more and more from the heart for the beloved without fear of devastation. Scramasax is not just a knife. There was a whole people who presumably were named after their favorite weapon. These are the Saxons, the very ones who conquered Britain, displacing various Angles with Britons, and who in turn submitted to the Normans, led by William the Conqueror in 1066. And the weapon is a heavy combat knife, Scramasax. It could be up to half a meter long, massive and durable, capable of easily sending a gaping enemy to the forefathers. Moreover, the shape of the blade of such knives was different. In England during the invasion of the Vikings, angular, chop-shaped Scramasaxes were often found. In Scandinavia, they are more like modern knives. Several such blades have been found on the territory of Russia. One should not think that the Scramasaxes were the weapon of poor warriors. Almost all found scabbards are richly decorated, which indicates the high social status of their owners. And the mounts for the poor, as I hope you understand, were not poured. Probably, this weapon was worn on the belt even when the sword for some reason remained at home. Some of the found knives with a complex cut on the blade are a real work of blacksmithing. One of these was discovered in Britain and was called the Thames Scramasax. Surprisingly, in the sagas that have come down to us, there is no mention of such a weapon. Treasure of the legendary Princess Zubeida. An archaeological mission from the Office of Archaeology of the Emirate of Sharjah has discovered a treasure of rare Islamic silver coins dating back to the period of the Abbasid dynasty. The coins were in an old clay jug. Experts have already identified the found coins. Among them was the very rare silver dirham of Zubeida al-Wahed. She was an Arab princess from the Abbasid dynasty, the beloved wife of one of the most powerful caliphs, Harun al-Rashid, and a queen during the reign of his son Caliph Muhammad al-Amin. Legends were made about Zubeida's wealth. For example, one of them says that Zubeida spent up to 37 million dirhams on various events, donations, and simply distributing money to the poor. According to the head of the excavation, Dr. Saba Abu Jassim, the discovery confirms the assumptions about the early presence of the Abbasid dynasty in the region. He also noted that the jug containing the coins was made in a style typical of the Abbasid era. How to find out the truth after 2,000 years. In the 1980s, on the ancient beach of this ancient Roman city, the remains of 300 townspeople were found in structures that archaeologists conditionally called boathouses, storage rooms for boats. In 79, they fled there from the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. About 2,000 people then died on the very shore. Moreover, the majority of those killed inside the boathouses were women and children, and those who remained by the water were men. Among the latter, the attention of scientists was attracted by the skeleton of a military man. On it were found a rich belt with a sword and dagger, a bag with carpentry tools, and a considerable, for a soldier, amount of money. Anthropologists reported that at the time of his death, he was 40-45 years old, he was healthy and physically strong. Archaeologists Archaeologists suggested that it was a legionnaire who, along with the several men, was waiting on the shore for a boat to rescue people who were sitting in the boathouses. The skeleton was given a conventional popular name, Soldier of Herculaneum. During the quarantine, the staff of the archaeological park had time to turn to the archives and revise the finds from past years. This is how the Soldier of Herculaneum had a new interpretation. First, they paid special attention to his personal belongings. The sword had an ivory hilt, a belt trimmed with the gold and silver, and next to the soldier lay 2 gold and 12 silver coins. Secondly, a bag with tools is not put into a regular legionnaire. It was assumed that this is a Praetorian. But experts have no information about the deployment of the Praetorian Guard somewhere on the Naples coast. The revision of the known data from a different angle of view suggested to archaeologists a new hypothesis. Obviously, the man was not a simple legionnaire, and if you remember that the fleet was not too far from Herculaneum in Misenum, then it is more likely that he was a sailor, not a soldier. But an ordinary sailor does not need a bag with carpentry or carpentry tools, and he could hardly have that much money, so according to experts, he could be a naval engineer of the Myzantsky fleet who worked with wood. Such an engineer was called Faber Navalis. Geoglyph of a bull 4,000 years old. On the territory of Siberia, a bull's geoglyph was discovered, created about 4,000 years ago. Scientists have concluded that it is twice as old as the famous lines in the Nazca Desert. The size of the bull reaches 3 meters in height and almost 4 in width. The figure is made of carefully arranged pebbles and sandstone. Scientists explain that the geoglyph is part of a Bronze Age burial found near the village of Hondegay. According to the archaeologists of the Institute for the History of Material Culture of the Russian Academy of Sciences, who participated in the expedition, this is the first geoglyph of animal origin in this part of Central Asia. Scientists have previously found images of bulls in Siberia, but these were exclusively rock paintings. The discovery of the geoglyph is significant, although it is not completely preserved. The front part was damaged during road works in the 1940s. The oldest known geoglyph is also located in Russia, about 1,700 kilometers from the bull. This is a huge elk, clearly visible only from the sky. Its age is about 6,000 years. The geoglyph was found thanks to satellite video. The oldest review in stone. This is a Babylonian clay tablet from around 1750 BC. A certain Lord Neni complains about the merchant Eanazar. The money was paid in silver, and the promised copper was not only delivered late and rude to the servant who took the order, but also the ally of the wrong kind. The servant did not accept the copper but paid, and the merchant stopped communicating and actually disappeared with the money of the unfortunate Neni. No copper, no silver. The tablet was found in the ruins of one of the houses of the ancient city-state of Ur, along with several other similar complaints about Eanazar. The researchers decided that this was either the merchant's house, where he simply stored these negative reviews, not paying any attention to them, or a court or some kind of federal service for surveillance on consumer rights protection and human well-being, where the deceived buyers turned. In order not to be deceived and always be aware of the latest find of archaeologists, I recommend that you subscribe to our channel and click on the bell. From you, by tradition, a kind comment, from me, a new video. Thanks for your views. Bye everyone!